So, in my last video, I talked about podcasts that I listen to every week, and quite a few of you guys DM'd me and asked, what were those shows that I listened to? So I'm going to break it down for you, but I want to say, if you have requests or comments, just drop them below and I will get to them. So let's get into it. So first up is the Anthony O'Neill Show. I never miss an episode. Anthony teaches people how to control your finances and invest. And Anthony's story is a deep one. He hit a rough patch in his life when he was young, ended up being homeless and sleeping in his car, to becoming a Dave Ramsey personality, and then leaving to start his own network, the Neatness Network, which is pretty great. I used to always hear my sister playing his stuff in the background, and I was like, what is this? And then one day I tuned in and loved it. He's a big reason that I made the career switch and I'm in tech today. He did a great job of making the awareness of tech boot camps known, but he goes deeper than that. You know, if you want to do day trading, he's got people on there that teach you about that. If you want to do real estate, he's got people on that teach you about that. If you want to start your own company and do digital courses, he's got people on there that teach you about that. It's an all-around great show. I highly recommend it. And the great part is his podcast is also filmed. So that means that you can listen to it or you can watch it on YouTube as well. So definitely check out the Anthony O'Neill Show. And that leads me to the next show. Tech is the New Black. So it's no secret if you watched my last video that Cyrus made a big impression on me and is partly the reason that I switched over into tech sales. If you're into tech like I am, then this is the best show by far out there for you to watch. In many ways, Cyrus is a pioneer. He has helped so many get into tech, and that's really what this channel's about. So oftentimes he'll have on guests that give their testimonials. He'll have on tech leaders, people that started their own tech companies. It is nothing but pure motivation and stuff that you can learn from. And you know what's really awesome is multiple times a week, he also does live streams on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, where he interviews people like me who've broken into tech. So if you haven't seen the show, it's amazing. They are producing a massive amount of content. So again, if you haven't heard Cyrus's story, go and check it out. He went from being a poet and an Uber driver to making over $300,000 a year when he broke into tech, which was a big life improvement for him because he was living with his sister on a little twin mattress. I tell you, you gotta listen to the story. It's really phenomenal. I also want to give a special shout out to Shanae, recruiter cousin. She's a big time recruiter over at Microsoft, but she gets on LinkedIn and Instagram and most of the lives that Tech is the New Black does. And she's in the comment section and she helps people make the break into the tech industry. She's really great at copywriting and helping you negotiate your salary, telling you exactly what you need to say. She has really great resume templates, so I can't encourage you enough. Check out Shanae. So my next one's going to be Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan. I found out about her last year and I haven't missed the episode since. She is such a motivation every week. She has this phenomenal story. She was in the corporate world and her boss unfortunately passed away. She was high up. She was in the C-level. But when her boss passed away, the company went to his daughter, and the daughter did not like Heather. So what she did was she brought her into the office and she fired her. And she gave Heather an ultimatum. You could get this big severance check and take all this money, but you have to say good things about the company. And then there was another ultimatum. I'm not sure what it was, but Heather was like, I'm not signing anything. I'm not taking your money. Screw this. Then what she did was she got home. She put on LinkedIn, I've been fired and I need help. And she really did need help because she was under a non-compete, which meant she couldn't work in her industry for the next 3 years. And the responses to help her were overwhelming. You know, she's taken the world by storm now. She recently just spoke at a women's summit at Google. And she just got back from being over in the Middle East, speaking at one of the biggest conferences they have. So I love Heather's content. No matter what's going on with her, she always tries to find the good in the situation, flip it around for the positive, and then broadcast it out to people like us for motivation. So again, if you haven't heard of The Boss in High Heels, go and check out Heather Monahan. It is worth it. And then we got The Game with Alex Hormozy. I don't know what it is about Alex Hormozy, but his content is addictive. I kept seeing people repost his quotes on LinkedIn last year, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but this content makes so much sense. And so I decided to look into him, and I found out who he was. I found out about acquisition.com, and I've been hooked ever since. And the great thing about Alex is he's very straight to the point. I also love that on his channel, he doesn't do any advertising. So all of his videos are philosophy and career advice, business tips, but it's just straightforward. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's got a great life. Everything to him is work. And when he's not working, he's working out on his body. He's enjoying time with his wife. He's awesome. He really is a visionary. I feel like he's going to be the next billionaire that we see really make an impact on the world. Kind of like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk or Bill Gates. He's just got that oomph to him, you know? And next up is going to be Amy Porterfield with Online Marketing Made Easy. I found out about her on the Anthony O'Neill Show. He calls her his big sis. Amy has an amazing podcast about personal brand and building digital courses. Amy's story is that she used to work for Tony Robbins, and she walked into this room with a bunch of leaders, and they were all men, and they were living their best lives. They were billionaires, millionaires, and everything that she was hearing when she was in that room was that they were free. They had freedom. They were on golf courses. They were on cruises. They were on trips. And that's what drove her to quit working for Tony Robbins and start her own business. And so that is what she's teaching people today. So I love the way she delivers her message. And then we got Pastor Torrey Roberts. And so he has two podcasts. He has The Calling, and then he has The One podcast. And I really enjoy Pastor Torrey because, you know, he's a man of faith. He talks about manifesting your blessings into your life, calling those things that be not as though they were, speaking it into existence, having your I am statement. You know, he's all about operating out of your faith. And it's a phenomenal podcast for leaders that I highly recommend you check out. On his other podcast, there's typically alternate speakers. My favorite by far is Devon Franklin. He used to be an assistant to Will Smith, and he has some phenomenal stories. You know, he talks about faith and life and, you know, going through career struggles and not being able to find a job, but always waiting on God's timing. And every time Devon's on there, it's just a fire statement. This podcast is full of inspiration. You're feeling down and out and you need that word to hit you? Check out The One podcast. Next up is going to be the tech sales king himself, Trent Dressel. He also films all of his shows, so you can watch him live on YouTube. Trent is awesome because not only is he the CourseCareers instructor, at 26 years old, he was able to scale in tech from $50,000 to $300,000 from SDR to account executive. And his podcast is all about teaching you about having grit, how to utilize scripts, how to speak when you're on the phone, how to not take no for an answer, how to just go and get it. He is relentless. And every day he hops on and he is cold calling. It's very inspirational, and I love everything that Trent's got going on. If you're interested in tech sales, check out CourseCareers, of course. It's worth it. I also really like that, you know, Trent is showing us the way from the ground up now too, because no longer does he work for a big fancy company. He's working remote from home for his family's business, growing it one client at a time, just one man with a phone, Apollo, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So I'm excited to see where his journey takes him. And then we have Erika Taught Me. Erika Taught Me is a special podcast to me because I started following her when she first started, and I've never missed a single episode. She, if you're not familiar, is the girl that gets on Instagram and she reads the fine print. She's the lawyer that reads the fine print. So maybe your AirPods were broken and you were able to get them replaced with no charge from Apple, or maybe you had some Nikes and they got damaged. And you're like, it's been 2 years. They're never going to take this back. And then all of a sudden you saw Erika's video and you're like, look at this loophole. Took them to the Nike store and you got your money back. Erika's that girl. Her podcast is amazing because she always brings on fantastic guests to interview. And the great thing is, in addition to it being a podcast, she also records it for YouTube. So you can watch her be right there with the guest and learn so much. She has on great guests all the time, like James Clear, Chris Voss, Dave Ramsey. Erika Taught Me is a big inspiration. And I love her story too. Basically what happened was she was working for a big time law firm, and I believe it was her grandmother, and she got sick and she needed time off. And the company basically told her they wanted her to work. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to leave corporate America. I'm going to leave this fancy law firm and I'm going to start my own thing because I don't want somebody controlling my life. And big inspiration, really loved it. So if you haven't seen the show, check out Erika Taught Me. And then up next, we have the Cash is King man himself, Dave Ramsey. So I always enjoy his show. I enjoy watching the feud. It's not really a feud because I've seen them together and I know they're friends, but I've enjoyed watching Graham Stephan and Dave Ramsey go back and forth at each other about different thoughts on certain things like, is credit good? Is credit bad? The debt snowball versus the debt avalanche, you know? It's always a great debate. And I like that they mutually respect each other and they both think each other are super smart and they just have different approaches to money, but they both have such great advice. I also enjoy the fact that Dave Ramsey, he teaches the 7 baby steps, and I feel like it helps a lot of people. I've known about this since I was a little kid, and I've seen it change lives if you stick to the program. So I honestly believe it works. I also really enjoy learning about how he's structuring his company. And that's something you learn from watching this show, because the way he has it structured is it's not the Dave Ramsey show, it's the Ramsey show. And what that means is there's different personalities. So if Dave ever wants to just step back and not work anymore, he's got it set up in such a way that you get used to all these different personalities that you're like, it's just another show. I enjoy this too. So again, if you're not familiar, and I'm sure you are, who doesn't know Dave Ramsey? Check out the Dave Ramsey Show. I gotta warn you though, it is 3 hours. I usually only catch it in snippets because it's so long. But if you're having any debt struggles and you want to be called stupid and told that you need to change your ways and this is how you need to do it, Dave's your guy. And then we've got Pastor Craig Groeschel. So I've always enjoyed Craig. My mom was a big fan of him when I was a kid. I believe he started his ministry in 1996. But he has a leadership podcast, and the information he has on there for businesses and companies is just phenomenal. And again, he talks about having faith, getting into the scripture, manifesting what's yours, and believing it's already done. So I really love the faith talk. I'm really big on manifesting and, making preparation for things to come. I remember I didn't have a car and I wanted to get a car. And so anytime I saw something that I wanted for my car when I was younger, I would buy it. And then, a few years later, the perfect opportunity came up, the perfect vehicle came up. I bought the car, had all the accessories for it. And I did the same thing when I first moved out on my own. I was already buying things in preparation to make that happen. So plan for your future. That's not what this video is about, but you get the idea. Craig Groeschel, fantastic podcast. He also is a full-time pastor, so his podcast doesn't drop very often. I think it's maybe twice a month. He leads Life Church, but I highly recommend you check him out. So inspirational, so well-spoken, lots of great quotes and things to live by, especially if you have faith. And that takes us to the Ken Coleman Show. Ken Coleman is a Dave Ramsey personality, but he's really focused on business. And I love the advice he gives. I think his show comes on every day but the weekend. Basically, what Ken has going on is he delivers the message of find your talent, what you do best, which will lead to your passion, work you love, which will lead to your mission, results you care about, which lands you at your purpose. Ken also has on his website the Get Clear Assessment, which is a little quiz that helps you discover what your ideal job will be in life based on the things that you love to do. Ken also wrote this dynamic book called The Proximity Principle, which talks about networking, getting out there, meeting people, because you never know who you're going to come across that could help you get to your next opportunity. And It's really about leveraging who you know, making great first impressions. He wanted to be a sports newscaster, and the way he got there was through networking. That takes us to Mr. Graham Stephan and the Iced Coffee Happy Hour. So this show is led by Graham and his best friend Jack. And the thing I like most about this show is it's about business and a lot of advice on how people got to where they are in their careers. But it really just feels like a bunch of guys chilling on the couch, talking. You know, it doesn't feel very professional. It's just fun and sometimes completely random. Graham's not afraid to ask those tough questions, and I really enjoy the tidbits that the people drop on the show. So Graham had on the creator of Teachable.com, and I remember he was talking about those personality quizzes that we all used to take. Like if we met a celebrity and we got stranded on a desert island, who would that celebrity be? And what would we do? Those quizzes, you know, they're all fun and games, right? But in reality, they were collecting data, and not like collecting sensitive data on you, but how people respond to different things on the internet. And I thought that was so fascinating. He had another guy on there that's a big real estate mogul in New York City. And the guy sounds kind of like a mobster, but you know, it's just highly entertaining. And it's just a really great show. I'm going to take a cue from Graham Stephan and tell you to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm because that's what he always says on his shows. But hey, you know what? It really helps. So yeah, do that. And then we have Lewis Howes. So if you're not familiar with Lewis Howes, he does a podcast called The School of Greatness, and it is fantastic. He has different guests on every week, and he really deep dives into what their beliefs are, how they go about with mindset, what they do for accomplishments. One of his shows, he had on this jiu-jitsu leader, and I never fully understood why so many leaders do jiu-jitsu until I watched that episode. Groeschel, Lewis Howes, they're just two of them, but there are so many leaders out there that practice jiu-jitsu. It really helps you comprehend things great. It helps your mindset. It helps your responsiveness. It helps the way you think, process information. Honestly, it might be something I get into one day, you know, seeing the impact that it has on the leaders that I really enjoy watching. It has me curious. So again, check out Lewis Howes. Very motivational. Love his story. Love his content. All around great guy. He is on a mission to help millions of people. I think his goal is 1 million people every day. I think that's what he said he wanted to do. So let's help him get there. He is awesome. And you know, I got to wrap it up with my girl, Kayla Berg from Big Boss Energy. So Miss Kayla Berg here at such a young age is a big time enterprise sales executive at Microsoft. Most of her content is done on YouTube, but she doesn't just interview people for tech. She does people that are in small businesses, people that are doing their own YouTube channels, people that are doing makeup. She had a really great interview with FinTech Latina. If you're not familiar with who FinTech Latina is, I would highly recommend you check her out. She's in financial tech and, you know, just phenomenal. It is such a great interview. Also, if you go on Kayla's page, you're going to see her do a tour of what it's like to work at Microsoft. So she gives you the ins and outs, the personal gyms, the snack bars, the reclining little couches that they have. It looks amazing. If you could work on site at Microsoft and have that experience, I don't think you would even want to do remote work. That's how cool it is. So definitely check out Big Boss Energy. Some honorable mentions, and I don't watch these every week because I just don't have enough time to watch all of these every week. I know I already listed a lot, but All the Hacks with Chris Hutchins. If you ever want to go on a trip, this is the podcast you need to listen to. He teaches you how to maximize your credit card points, how to maximize your rewards, where to stay, how to do B&Bs. It is a fantastic podcast. It was getting addictive for a while because he likes going to Japan, and that's one of my dreams. And so I listen to his podcast, listen to his experiences, and I take note because one day I'm going to get back overseas. Smart Passive Income is another great one with Mr. Flynn here. And I love Smart Passive Income because he gives such great advice. But what's really cool is he's also a bit of a nerd, kind of like me. So Even though he's a business person and he's professional, he has a bit of pop culture to him. And he runs this whole little Pokemon convention on the side. It's kind of neat. But I love to see when somebody's professional and they can dive into something that's usually a hobby or thought of as for kids. I love superheroes. It's one of my favorite things. Marvel and DC all the way. So seeing a business professional dive into what they love is awesome. My First Million. This show was primarily about interviewing people on how they got to their first million. It's since changed a bit. And usually what the two hosts do these days is they deep dive into a business and they look at how it's performing, what it's doing, and probably what its next steps are. I haven't really heard them have guests in a while, but it's really cool to listen to all the different things and all the tips on getting to that stature in your life. And then Sam from My First Million also runs a podcast called Money Wise. And Money Wise is kind of fun because he basically talks to people that got super rich, super young, or millionaires or billionaires, and he just sees what they like to do outside of work to enjoy having their money, spending it, helping the world, and so forth. So it's pretty cool. And then you got 10 Minute MBA with Scott. And it's fantastic advice. He cuts straight to the point. This is what you need to do for your business. This is how to execute it. These are the circles of influences you need to run in. I tell you, it's fantastic advice. I feel like it's high level. Again, it's called 10 Minute MBA for a reason. So you get in, you get out, you take notes, and you apply it. So check that one out for sure. And then lastly, Dr. Berg. So I started keto last year and my body thanks me for it. I'm an Italian at heart because I'm from Buffalo, New York. And so Italian food is just what we do. But with keto, it's basically vegetables and meat. And I gotta say, I do feel fantastic. I have a lot more energy ever since I started. I've lost 20 pounds, but I do miss my pasta. But Dr. Berg is an expert on ketosis. So if you're interested in the keto diet, or if you're doing it and you want some really good advice on how to maximize it, check out Dr. Berg. So you guys are probably thinking, how in the world do you have the time to listen to all these podcasts? Honestly, most of them are about 20 to 30 minutes, so it's not as long as it seems. But really what I do is when I make breakfast, I turn on the podcast. When I make lunch, I turn on the podcast. And when I make dinner, I turn on the podcast. Typically, I try to meal prep or cook all my meals at home these days because I work remotely. So I save money by not having to go out and I'm able to just cook here in my kitchen. And when I'm doing that, why not self-develop and build up my mind? Also, if I'm driving somewhere, I put on a podcast. So that's really how I accomplish this. So again, if you guys have any more suggestions, I already got 2 more from you guys that I'm going to work on for videos. Drop it in the comments and I will do my best to check it out. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.